Hey, sports fans, Eric Meyer. I'm going to jump into some data also at Autobahn South with my friend Bill Fischer. This is the first time Bill has been to Autobahn South. First time he's really ever taken any kind of dive into data. We're again using the Apex Pro, one of my favorites. Thanks, Andrew Rains, for providing this. If you want to get a hold of one of these and you want a special deal to get one of these bad boys, remember, it always faces out, one of these bad boys, and you want a free suction cup mount, I'll put a discount code and you can order that off the Apex Pro website. Use the code, get some freebies, and I'll help you look at your data. Have a good old time. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to use a iPhone here, and this is a 8 Plus. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to help you use data exactly like you would use it on your phone right here. And I'm tethered to my iMac and using Zoom software right now to show this. But here's what you want to do. First thing you want to do is go to the Apex, go into your app where you update your apps. And I had this already up, I apologize. Apex Pro. And you want to get the latest and greatest software. And that's because our man Andrew Rains and Baker and Ross and Austin and all the team down in Birmingham, Alabama is constantly making improvements. And so you want to see if you have the latest and greatest software. So I do that, and make sure you do that on all your devices, by the way. So here we go. I got my Apex Pro icon right there. I'm going to zip to right here. I'm going to hit the data button for review. And by the way, if you forget and you're totally brand new to this, which some of you are, I'll go slow, but also try to give you some good meat and potatoes. The method for using this is all across the top right here. It's literally 1, 2, 3. So you mount it in your car, you connect to it via Bluetooth, you calibrate it, you drive, and you put it away. So it's always the 3 across the top. And if you didn't know that, whoopsie, if you didn't know that, you know that now. Apologize, I've had one too many espressos today. My favorite. Okay, so we're gonna hit data right there in the center. And you'll notice that when I turn the phone sideways, you'll notice that when I select Bill Fischer down here and I swipe to the left, we'll get this right here. This is how you share, by the way. And if you want to hit share Apex session, that will allow you to share the Apex Pro data. If you want to export as a CSV, you can share it via Track Attack or email it via Track Attack. So here's Bill Fischer down here. And I like that he put his vehicle. And I want to show you and give you a tip here, hot tip number 1. Guys, put your vehicle information in here. I can't tell you how critical it is right here to fill this out and this out and this out. And that is because if you ran a 2-minute flat in the rain and you didn't know it was rain because it wasn't on there, right? And you go back there next year and you go, man, I ran a 158. You didn't really just save 2 seconds in the dry. That was a rain 2 minutes. So you need to know if it's rain, and also you want to know if what tires you're running. So I always put my tires in here and the number of heat cycles. If they're scrubs and they're brand new stickers or they're old, put them in there. That's helpful. If you're going to compare data, you need to know what you were using. Okay, so let's get going here. So we're going to look at Bill Fischer's data. You got the opening screen here. This is Autobahn South. I'm going to scroll right here, and like I normally do, and this is what I'd recommend you do if you're new to Apex Pro or you're new to data. The green is some of the faster laps, and the darkest green right there, that 1:44.02, that darkest of the green is the lap I'm just going to pick right there, that fastest fastest lap. And I'm going to take that blue little diamond right here. I'm going to touch that bad boy, and it's going to go over to this screen. If we keep going, we go over to the friction circle, and we can keep going. This is Lap Timer Plus. You totally want to know what this is, and you totally want to know that this is very valuable. But for now, we're just going to use this right here. And I'm going to turn this sideways, just like you would if you were at the track, because you get a slightly different view. Excuse me while I get something out of the way here. And here's how we're going to go about this. The format that you want to look at data that I would recommend for new folks and intermediate and advanced drivers is what you're looking at right here. You need a place to start. Uncle Eric's got you hooked up. You want distance, you want speed, and there's actually a long G right there. And I like blue. This is totally optional, and we're going to talk about this right now. So you're brand new to data. Bill, you're brand new. This is for you. If you notice in the lower left, it says distance and time. There's what the time looks like. The industry standard is to use distance. We'll talk about time. When you get really good at this, put it on distance. This toggle right here has a bunch of stuff, and you can get lost really, really quick. If you're learning data, we're going to use speed, and we're going to use long G. And we're going to use speed and long G. But we're going to use speed and long G. And we're going to use speed and long G. You catching what I'm throwing down? We're going to use speed and long G. Speed is a result, and Peter Krause said this once. He goes, speed, I'm trying to talk like Peter. Speed, can't talk like Peter. Speed is a result. It's an output. It is what your hands and feet do. Roger Cadell of AIM calls it the money channel. It is the result. It is all the things that we do, and if we can make all this higher, if we can make the top speeds higher and the lowest speeds higher, we're going faster. You take the average speed and make it higher, we're going faster. So it's a result. Longitudinal G's is what you do with your feet. And it is my professional opinion that intermediate and advanced drivers get the biggest returns. Thank you, Paul King, texting in on my Zoom call. Get the biggest returns when they work on their feet, and in particular, the brake release and the throttle application. Guess what long G allows us to do? Allows us to isolate brake release and throttle application. We're going to look at speed. We're going to look at long G, which is brake release and throttle application. Okay. But speed is the main channel. Over here on the far right, by the way, I'm going to take this track map. I'm going to touch it. I'm going to move it up here. I just touched it and moved it. This on the right over here is how you can color your track map. And it's really, really slick feature. And if you, all you need to know is it's coloring the track map. So, excuse me, it's coloring the trace. So when it says speed right here on the right, basically what it's saying is the faster speeds, right? Speeds are green, the low speeds are red, and the intermediate speeds are yellow. So the spectrum is green is fast and red is slow with yellow in the middle. Let me show you what that looks like. And by the way, if we just look at this, right, it looks like below about 60, it's kind of yellowish, right? Almost lime green, kind of in here, 60 to 70 range, right? And then above here, the faster speeds looks like a pretty, real rich green right here. Super, super green. So we're going to show you an example of that. So we're losing a little bit of software here. So here's long G. got a new color. We got red. So remember, green, red, yellow in between. Green, red, yellow in between. Every time you see colors on Apex Pro, we're going to touch on this real briefly. It's green, red, yellow in between. So long G, longitudinal G, it's colored by this speed channel right over here, 95 miles an hour, is colored by longitudinal G. And you'll notice that everywhere it goes up or it's accelerating, it is green, and everywhere it's decelerating, it's red. And that's based on the amount of G. You'll see this transition of yellow where you're really braking hard, so it's red, and you're not braking so much down here that it's yellow. And when you start to go on the throttle to go from 50 miles an hour to 51 and 52 and 53 and 54 and 55, it turns green. Green is accelerating, and for long G, red is negative G's, and yellow is the transition in between. Might not make it clear yet, so let's keep going. Again, we're coloring. Here is, let's do one. Let's do not distance. Let's do no, that's not a good track for this. How about we do Apex score? This is kind of neat. Apex score, and if we go back here, Apex score has to do with these wonderful little lights in the lower right. By the way, if we touch that, we can also move that around, just like we can move this around right here. And on the lower left is a little white button, kind of hard to see. And if that's the slider, and if we slide that across, we see a couple things going on. Please note this fancy speedometer. Please note the location on the track. Please note these green lights. I got these all together for a reason. And that is so I can show you this. I'm going to put these lights and the speedometer and that little blue dot, and I'm going to go down here. So what I'd like you to do is keep your eye on the speedometer, the blue dot, and the apex lights. I'm just going to move those back and forth. We're coming into a corner from right to left. There's our speed, and you can see the track is colored and the lights are on. This will make sense in a little bit. Just know that all these features of the Apex Pro are all integrated, and Andrew Rains and team designed it so it's all makes sense for a beginner. It's robust enough to tell you everything you need to know. It's really quite a wonderful device. It's not like the new Garmin Catalyst, which sort of teaches you and tells you and talks to you. This does a little bit of that, but it has very robust learning data features, because you want to learn the skill of knowing what to look for. You want to learn the skill of going to data, answer a question that you have. Okay, I'm going to hit the little blue guy down, little blue diamond down in the corner. And we're going to come right back over here. Speed trace by Apex lights, and we're just going to get busy. We're going to go to blue. I like blue. Actually, I do like blue, but blue is very contrasting color, as you can see for our effort here. You can do green. It's a little harder to see. Red's not too bad. I think blue has the biggest contrast, so we're going to do that. So here we go. We got a track map up here. We got our little slider right here. We're under distance, where we want to be. Distances in meters right here. We got speed or long G, right? We're only going to use those two. You only need to know those two. Don't try to get all fancy and go, hi, I'm new to data. What the hell's that? You're going to get smoked. You need to know this as part of the foundation. And then we got blue down here on the far right. So what are we looking at? What are we looking at? First thing we do in data is a look at the top of the speed trace peaks or the mountains. And the mountains is where we're going the fastest. In this particular case, we're going 95. Also looks like this one right here goes a little bit over 100. But what we're going to do is we're looking for a particular shape. So bear with me here. One of the first things you do is you look for a shape. And if you're taking notes, you're doing exactly like I'm doing right now. You're opening up to the speed trace. Maybe you're making it blue, putting it on distance, you're putting it on speed, and you're going right here and you're looking at the shapes. Now, I'm going to draw this the way I see it. And we're going to look at that one again. Okay. What I want you to see right here, and actually I'm going to move this down a little bit so we can see another one down here. I want you to see this one right here. Right here. There we go. This one right here. So if you're new to data, we're going to take the slider down at the bottom. And actually, we're going to go back here for a second and go, okay. And we're going to slide over here. So I got a couple things going on. I want you to see the relationship of this is where the slider put us on track, which is also the same as where we're at right here. And right off the bat, you should see something. You should see that of this blue line right here, all of this blue line, that this is relatively low. It's on the bottom. It's 40 some miles an hour, 43 miles an hour. This up here at the top is a faster speed, right? 100 and something, right? Pretty simple. So here's what we're looking at. We're going to look at the tops of these, and we're looking for a V shape or a sawtooth shape. And a sawtooth, Matt Romanowski says, is really sharp. It's right there. It's very acute angle. What it isn't is this, whoop, or this. Okay, we're looking for a very decisive throttle, 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 application of the brakes. Throttle, 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 application of the brakes. And I want you to analyze a little more closely the exact nuances of the tops of these, because they tell you a lot about what your feet are doing. Did I mention earlier that the speed is in long G, what your feet are doing, and speed is a result? Well, here it is right here. So we're going to get really all intimate with this right now. I want you to see that this actually has a shape to it, and I'm going to exaggerate the shape. It looks like this. It's gaining, and then it kind of does this, and it kind of does this. Do you see that right there? It's about a bending point right there. That's very important. Just like this shape right here. I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit. It's this, and it's this. Do you see that? You need to see that. That's opportunity. That tells you what your feet are doing. I would even say that this has some of this. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the idea. Do you see it right there? Do you see it right there? That's important to note. It's telling you what your feet are doing, what your feet are doing. This one, actually, let's see if I can find a really good, there's a nice one down here. Actually, this one has a little bit and a little bit of this and a little bit of this, right? And they all actually kind of do. This is the driver's tendency. This is about this over and then straight down. This one over here, I don't know if you can see that on your screen. Not too bad. This tells me how Bill is braking. And what I see here in all of these cases on this particular lap, maybe not all laps, on this particular lap, is an initial brake application where he is touching the brake a little bit and then touching it again. You can see that right here. He's touching the brake and touching it again. You do not see this very acute, sharp angle, which would indicate a quick, almost thrust of the brakes. And I would ask Bill, why? Is it possible that you can go to brakes a little more quickly and a little more assertively? Because if you look at this, guys, and this is where you lose friends by thinking you're a freaking data guru and telling your buddy, you need to go better. You need to do better, dude. You need to do a sawtooth. Well, maybe his front shocks are super soft. Maybe his ABS freaks out when he goes to ABS. So you ask him a question instead. The question I would ask you is, hey, Bill, do you think you can be a little more assertive on the initial brake application? Because it looks like you're doing this and this. And he might be, and he just doesn't know it. Nobody knows what their feet are doing unless you have this longitudinal G and somebody tells you what to look at, or you got a brake pressure sensor, which is awesome, by the way. Awesome. Okay, so recap. Distance, speed, blue. Look for the peaks and look for that really sharp sawtooth. If you get that lazy thing, in fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to see if he's got lazy things in here. And the way that we're going to see that he's got lazy things in here is to go back to Bill, and we're going to look at his outlap. Because when people do an outlap, it's usually pretty timid and usually pretty slow, right? So what do we see here? We see all kinds of stuff, don't we? We remember it's an outlap. So we see some casual warm-up stuff, right? Kind of some peak. This is nice and rounded, right? This one's all kind of funky over here. We got all kind of stuff. Again, outlap. It's definitely not, boom, oops, excuse me. It's definitely not the, this shape right here, all right? Doom, doom, and straight down. And if you watch the video prior to this with Dave Stewart, you saw a lot of this, almost too much of them as an example. Okay. I'm going to look at the cool down lap and see what we get over here. I'm going to turn that sideways. Here you go. Here's some of that nice and easy kind of braking. If we look and see where this is at, we'll put the track map over here. Where the heck is this? There it is, going into turn 4, nice and easy, just kind of like do. It's definitely not a V, right? That's the outlap. He's cooling his brakes down. He's chilling, right? Something real funky down here. Look at this. This is an accelerate, maybe a gear shift, a little faster, and then a goofy brake, and then another brake. Okay, so there's a little bit about the sawtooth. Okay, now we're going to go to the bottom of this bad boy. We're going to go back here. We're going to pick the darkest color lap, that same one, 142 we're doing. His fastest provided lap. Might not have been his best ever, but it's the one that we're looking at, which is fine. You don't have to, guys, if you're sharing your data, let me do this. Guys, if you're sharing your data, I get this all the time. I say, send me your data. And people are like, okay, oh, I got to get my best lap. Oh, I got to get your best. Screw that. Just send your data. It's going to reveal what you do. Yeah, it might not have been your best lap ever for your whole life, right? Maybe it was a second off your best lap at that track on that particular day, but it's still going to show you it's still going to show the person who is reviewing your data how you're driving. So send data. Don't get all hung up on lap times. Data review people, we don't care about freaking lap times. We're looking for driving behaviors or skills or opportunities to offer a better skill and tell you how to do that than your lap times. So we're looking for what you do. We're looking for behaviors. looking for what your feet are doing. Okay. And that's what we're going to do right here. We're going to look at the bottom. We just looked at the top. If you remember, we just looked at the top of the speed trace. Now we're going to look at the bottom. Again, speed trace, all right, blue distance. So here's what we're looking at. There's a couple things here. And it's very important. Just like we looked at shapes at the top right here. We saw like this little goofy thing right here. We're looking at that also for the bottom. And if you think about this for a second, what you're looking at here is this would be the brakes and then back to accelerate. Brakes, accelerate. Brakes, there's a little pause at about that same speed, and accelerate. Please understand that every time you see one of these are almost always the indication of a corner and an apex. A corner and an apex. Let's confirm that theory. I'm going to grab the slider down here. We're going to look at the track map right here, and we're going to drive around the track, and we're going to stop at these various points. Okay, etc. Again, I'm trying to get you to understand and make the connection on what all this stuff is. This is one way to do it. In other words, where the heck am I on the track? So I'm going to grab this slider down here, and we're going to go way down here on the far left, and we're going to go right there, and son of a gun, once you know it, the very first low trough down here is turn 1. It always is. Guess what this is? The beginning of the brake zone for turn 1. And guess what this is right here? The start finish line. Wow, rocket science. If you didn't know that, you just learned something new. So let's go down here a little farther to the next one. Look at that. That's a corner. Do you see the track map? It's a corner. Let's go all the way down here to this one. Look at that. That's the apex. I'm going to make sure that you see that right here. You see that right there? Yes, sirree, Bob. And if we continue to go on and on, here's one down here. There's a corner, right? That's right here. So this is where the brakes go. This is where we're accelerating. We're braking. In and around the apex. Now, you want to see something super cool? Say yes. Shout out to Steve, my man, Steve Holscher, for this. We're going to swipe left, and I want to show you a neat trick. This is from my buddy Steve. Taught me a lot about data. Used to be with Racekeeper. Super secret projects now. Everything happens relative to the apex. So this is turn 4. That's pretty darn close to the center of apex. I might be able to get it a little closer, but man, it's really close. How about right there? Right there. We are in the apex, and you can see that from the curbing, right? You can see that because of how it is in the center of that 90-degree corner. Do we all agree? Say yes. Now I'm going to use this little red arrow down here in the lower right. I'm going to go back, and wouldn't you know it, that is the apex location right here. And I'll show you why this is important. We're going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to spread my 2 fingers and really get wide on this, right? We're at that same turn 4 that we just looked at. This line right here is the same way where this dot is. And when we go back over here, there's that same dot, right, in the apex. That's one little sweet trick about how you move this dot to move this dot to find the apex. Why is that important, Eric? Hey, great question. Thanks for offering that. It's important because here's our apex, right? Do we agree? That's the apex right there. What's going on right here? Before I answer, I want you to think about this a little bit. What's going on right here? What's going on here? What's happening here? What's happening from here to here? And what's happening here? Okay, let me break that down for you. If this is the apex, we should be accelerating out of the apex and braking, having a level car, a steady chassis. I'm going to drive through the apex, and for all intents and purposes, we want to accelerate out. There are different rules, but on this corner at 75 miles an hour, right here, we should be at the apex trying to give it heck. Look what's going on here. Here's the red flag. Do you see this right here? Billy, for whatever reason on this lap, maybe it was traffic, maybe it was you, maybe this is your driving style. We'll find out. We'll look at a couple other laps. But you're braking, then you're going back to throttle, and then you're braking again just before the apex, and you've got a steady speed, and well after apex, you start to increase on your best lap provided. I would ask you, hey, do you remember what was going on at this lap? If you had video, you might be able to confirm. Maybe it was traffic. Maybe it was a turtle ran out there. Maybe this is how you drive. We don't know. And we're not judging. We're just saying, here's what it is, and here's what that means. So the way we're going to drill down to this is we're going to go back to the track map, because just remember that this in this shape right here, where that dot is, I'm going to move this around. This area between here and here, right, is the apex. Okay, just going to put that in your head. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the slider over a little bit and say, what's going on right there? That's where he starts to accelerate, right? And we're going to go to the track map. And go, for whatever reason, he's starting to accelerate and accelerate pretty hard right there. My guess is that he overbroke. Why did I say that? Because that's what people do when they overbrake. They go back to gas. They're like, oh shit, I'm going too slow. So it looks like he picked up a couple miles an hour. And then right here, we'll put our cursor right here. This is where he broke. Let's go back to here, right? So somewhere about here, he went back to gas. Somewhere he's braking. And somewhere in and about apex and past this apex, he starts driving throttle out. Is this making sense? All we're doing is making the connection of what we see right here and what he's doing. I'm going to offer a suggestion on what this should look like. This higher speed cambered flat corner. My brother, we know that the apex is about right here. We know that you were doing something over here. Who the hell knows what's going on? Maybe there's a turtle. Maybe you're changing your radio, scratching yourself. I don't know. I don't know why I said that. But I think that if we could have got rid of all this, we could move this thing down a little more, then come down, and it looked like that. This would be the additional gain in higher mile per hour, and higher mile per hour carried over this distance in meters. And let's say right about here, right? Which looks about 100 meters or 300 feet. Wouldn't you like to go about 87, 5 miles an hour faster for a football field? It's a yes question. That's probably worth a 0.4 of a second. just there. And what typically happens for somebody with data, I'm going to go back to here, is those kind of things occur in a couple places. And I see some little bobbles and dabbles. That might be somewhat of his tendency. If you do it one place, you often do it at more, especially if you're a solid intermediate or a new kind of advanced driver. You can be a very advanced driver and have bad habits that have stuck with you. But if you do data and you do it early and you find this stuff, you can correct it early so it doesn't become a habit and a pattern. Okay. So what do we do so far? We looked at the peaks, we looked at the valleys, and we looked at this. A higher speed corner should be a U-shaped. Remember, this is the acceleration part. And at higher speeds, you should not be able to accelerate abruptly. Down here would be a V shape. And I'm going to go to a really slow corner right here. Whoopsie. I'm going to go to a really slow corner. Well, we'll just go to that one right there. Go to a really slow corner. This should be a V-shaped. And this should be a U-shaped. I'm going to be gentle on the brakes and we go back to throttle. So the higher speed corners are U-shaped because you want to touch the brake lightly, come off, get to the apex, slowly add throttle. If you can add a whole bunch of throttle, you overslowed. Now for the lower speed corners, you're braking, turning the car because they're slower speed, right? It's a big turn and then you're going to a whole bunch of throttle, like a second gear corner, and it's throwing you back. That acceleration goes like this, and therefore it should be looking like a V. So a proper shape of a slower corner is a V, and a proper shape of a faster corner is a U, and then in between, right, is kind of like that. I believe the magic number is in about 60 and above, give or take, where it sort of takes on that U looking shape. So just remember that. Okay, we just did speed. Now we're going to learn about feet, and we're going to use this example right down here that we said. Remember, this was turn 4. I'll use the slider to show that. Look at the little dot on the track map, right? We're going to go back there and put the little guy on the apex, right? Looks like about right about. Come on, baby. Gentle hands, too much coffee, too much espresso. Shout out to my espresso sponsor, Starbucks. Okay, so we're going to go over here. There's the apex. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to the other channel we talked about. There's speed, long G, the only two you need to know. Okay, don't be scared of what I just did because it's going to make sense. The cursor is still on the apex. The cursor is still on the apex. The axis on the bottom is still the same. It's distance. We're on the same location on the track. Look on the track map, which is right there, right? That's the apex. Okay. This is the magic 0 for longitudinal G's. Anything positive is acceleration with your throttle foot. You need to remember this and write it down. Anything negative, you can see the negative values, and they're always on the bottom, positives on the top, is brake. Here we go. All of this underneath here is brake. I'm going to make it really easy for you to this understand. Shout out to Jeff Henderson for saying, Eric, you need to use colors because people relate to colors. Green is go and red is stop. So all this underneath here is red, is where Bill is braking going into turn 4. I'm going to switch colors. Check this out, yo. Check it out, yo. See this little guy right here? He's accelerating. Is this making sense now? Going back to speed. All right. There's that little acceleration portion right there. There's the braking, how it goes down. Here's all this braking, and here's the apex. Let me do that again. For some reason, we're braking, Bill. We're going back to gas. We're braking again. Looks like from apex out, we're doing right, but on entry, not so good. So I would brake a little later and brake a little less, because it looks like you over broke and you went, oh, I can go back to throttle. Oh, now I got to go back to brake. So the car is literally doing this on entry before apex. You want it to be nice and smooth. And when I say nice and smooth, Mike Tyson, you want it to look like this. We're going to go down a little bit farther. We're going to brake. And we're going to come off the brake, nice and gentle at the apex. And then we're going to accelerate out. So all this other stuff is just slowing you down. There's probably 5 more miles an hour there, and probably 4/10. 4/10. There you go. That's it. That's all I got. You know what? We're going to do one more thing. We're going to see if that corner was a fluke. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to pick another reference lap for Bill. And instead of that 144.2, we're going to pick the 145, lap number 6. We're going to go to that same corner and see if the same thing's happening. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Was it a fluke or was it a real McCoy? Looky there, guys. Do you see that? Does that look familiar? Remember? Little green guy right there. Right? Little red brake right there. Remember, we're doing longitudinal G. You see that? We found it. This is the driver's tendency. You know what? Maybe that's another fluke. There's the same damn turtle out there. By the way, if we'll go back to speed, we see the same thing, right? There it is. Brake, gas, brake. You know, apex was in and around. Well, where is the apex? We'll find out for this one. Let's double confirm, right? Double confirm. Put the cursor on the apex. Let's see if he's doing the exact same thing. That's pretty close. Hit the blue dot. Interestingly enough, there's the apex, and he slowed down after that and then sped up. And maybe that was traffic. Okay, maybe it was traffic. Let's do one more. Let's do this 45-1. Darn it. See it? Same thing. Bill, this is your tendency. We didn't make the mistake of looking at one lap and saying, oh, I suck. We looked at 3 laps and say, oh, yeah, you suck, but you're consistent. The great thing is you can fix that. So, Bill, there's your homework. We want to carry a couple more miles an hour in. We want to not brake so much. We want to roll the speed to the apex, pick it up at apex to the throttle, and boogie out. So there you go, sports fans. You want to deal on Apex Pro to get a free suction cup? Hit the Summit Free logo or the code in the bottom of the YouTube here. Remember to add the suction cup to your cart, and it's free. Say hello to Andrew Rains. Send me your data, and I will see you at the track. Peace.